How did Civil War families survive on subsistence farming? Imagine living in a time when every meal depended on what you could grow or raise yourself. During the American Civil War, many families in the South had to rely on subsistence farming to get through tough times. Subsistence farming means growing just enough food for your family, with little left over to sell or trade. This was a common way to survive when disrupted markets and supplies became scarce. Families mainly grew staple crops like corn, wheat, and vegetables. They also raised animals such as chickens, pigs, and cows to provide meat, milk, and materials for clothing. Women played a big role in managing the household, tending the garden, and turning raw farm products into usable food and clothing. Large families were typical because more people meant more help with farming and chores. The war made it hard to get outside goods because of shortages and inflation. The Union blockade of southern ports cut off many supplies, forcing families to depend even more on their own farms. The Confederate government tried to help by collecting food from farmers to feed the army, but often military needs took priority. This meant families faced frequent shortages and had to make do with what they had. Many small farmers and freedmen did not own large plantations. After the war, they often worked as sharecroppers or tenant farmers, working land owned by others in exchange for a share of the crop. This kept many families in poverty but allowed them to keep farming and feeding themselves. Despite these hardships, hunger was not always a problem because families focused on growing enough food for their own use. They grew a variety of crops to keep their soil healthy and their food supply steady. They also gathered wild foods and preserved what they could. Crop rotation and planting different crops like grains, tobacco, or cotton helped maintain soil fertility and ensured a steady food source. Families often worked together, with everyone pitching in to plant, harvest, and preserve food. They also learned to adapt to shortages by making homemade clothing from animal hides or plant fibers, and by sharing resources with neighbors. In the end, their survival depended on careful planning, hard work, and sticking together. Subsistence farming was more than just growing food. It was a way of life that kept families going during a war that often prioritized feeding armies over civilians. They learned to make do with less, to share what they had, and to keep their families fed and clothed despite the chaos around them.